is entitled a halachic how-to. All of us know the physical how-to. You get dressed, you come, you sing a few songs, and you eat way too much, and that's the Seder. We're going to talk a little bit about what to do from a sort of halachic standpoint. All right, I just want to make sure I'm recording here. Okay. So the first thing, let's start with a little bit. I'm going to try to go in order of what happens at the Seder. I'm going to try to keep it really as a Seder. By the way, I'm going to keep referring to the night as the Seder. That's probably not grammatically correct, but that's how we know it. Seder in Hebrew means order, and that's the whole thing with the Seder, that there is an order to what's being done. There's a progression. That's why some of us even have the custom to sing it at the beginning, so we know what's going on. Okay, by the way, it's the same word as Sidur, right? Hebrew prayer book is a Sidur. It's because the tefillah, the prayer, is misudar. It has been organized and put into an order. So that's the same word. Okay, so we're going to try to go through this Keseder. We'll go through it in order. So the first thing, similar to Shabbos, when we're told that we should try to be ready for Shabbos, for Shabbat, before Shabbat begins, similarly the halacha begins. These halachos that we're using are from the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. Code of Jewish Law is actually the other one, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. But the Shulchan Aruch, it's the set table literally, but it's the work of Rav Yosef Karo, early 16th century, the 1500s in Spain and Israel. So he wrote his work. The Ramah, that's primarily Sephardic halacha. The Ramah disagreed with a lot of what he said, and he wrote his notes in as a gloss to the Shulchan Aruch. That became mainstream Ashkenazi halacha. And then we're also going to use a lot from the Mishnah Berurah, also known as the Chafetz Chaim or the Be'er Halacha, Rav Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan, Poland. Also, so he was late 1800s. Okay, when he was writing early 1900s, and that's really where we're going to be using most of the halachos from. Okay, so the Mechaber, the Rav Yosef Karo, the author, so he writes in the Shulchan Aruch that you should have your table set in advance, so you could begin the Seder right away after nightfall. He does also point out that it should be specifically after nightfall. On Shabbos, Friday nights, very often, and certainly in the summer, what do? We do what's called early Shabbos. We start anytime really after Mincha Gedola, after Mincha Ketana, or certainly on the average Friday night you come to Shul for Mincha, Kabbalah Shabbos, and Mariv, and you get home before what's called Seis, before nightfall. It's after the day has ended, but before the night has begun, and that's okay on a regular Shabbos. However, on Pesach, that is not okay. The Pesach Seder needs to take place after it is certainly night, after nightfall. Okay, I don't know the times offhand, but I would bet somewhere around 8:30 this year in Toronto. Okay, approximately 8:30 this coming Monday night. So why? Why do you need to wait until it's definitively night, until nightfall? Because the whole Seder needs to take place at the time the Korban Pesach could take place. The Korban Pesach could only be eaten, the Paschal Lamb could only be eaten when? At night. It had to be definitely night. It had to be after 8:30. Right? That's just the time here in Toronto. Were there to be a Beis HaMikdash in Toronto and a Korban Pesach. Okay? But it had to be after night. So that's when the Korban Pesach takes place. And therefore, that's when matzah can take place. Because we know that the mitzvah of matzah is connected to the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. So since Korban Pesach has to be at night, matzah has to be at night. And therefore the start of the meal, which is Kiddush, also has to be at night. So since everything has to take place at night, you can't start the Seder until it's definitely night. So, which really means though, by the time you daven Mariv, which is going to be after Shkia, between Shkia and Seis is usually about 45 minutes. Okay, between sundown and nightfall is about 45 minutes generally. If you daven in Shul, you walk home, you get home, until you gather up the family and until everybody fights about which seat they want. Okay? You're really only waiting about another 5 or 10 minutes until nightfall. So it's really not that big a deal, but it has to be nightfall. And he also tells us, the Mechaber, Rav Yosef Karo tells us we should set the table nicely. And that we should recline. We should not lean. Everybody translates the word Heseba, the mitzvah of the night, the mitzvah of Heseba as leaning. The mitzvah is not to lean. And the reason for that is because if I do this, I'm not comfortable. This is leaning. This is reclining. This is much more comfortable. Right? Or using the table to do the same thing. That's reclining. There's a difference between reclining and leaning. The mitzvah of the night is to recline. And the reason we recline, I may say lean, just ignore it. Assume that I mean recline. Okay? The mitzvah of the night is to recline. Why? Because we're supposed to show that we are free men. We are sitting like kings. We are important, we are special, we are free, and so we can recline when we eat. He also says that we should use fancy silverware, fancy plates. We should make the table nice. We should wear our finest clothing to the Seder. And even though there's normally a mitzvah of modesty, to do things with a certain modest way, to maybe not always use the absolute best, it shouldn't sparkle the most, right? We don't want to show off. However, on Pesach, because we are kings and we are queens and we are free men and women, right? Men, if I say men again, most of the time it's going to be capital M. I'll point out when there's a difference between the men and the women. Okay? But assume it's capital M. So we are free people, and therefore we should use our best stuff. Okay? On to the mitzvah of Heseba. Okay, that's the beginning. That's sort of the introduction to the Seder. Also, a little bit in the introduction, Heseba, the mitzvah to recline. So one important thing is you recline, you don't lean. The other thing, which direction? Which way? Left. Okay, why?
Good question.
Why to the left? So there are two reasons. One is very practical. The average individual is a righty. Okay, no offense. The average individual is right-handed. If you recline to the left, your left hand is somewhat out of use, and you can make use of your right. If you recline to your right, and you're a righty, your hand is stuck. It's a little awkward to eat and drink like that. You're going to want to make use of your left. Okay? So that's one very practical reason. So then I'll ask you this question. If that is the reason we lean to the left, what should a lefty do? Should a lefty recline to the left or recline to the right?
The right.
So according to what I just said, you would think a lefty should recline to the right. That's not the halacha. The halacha is that the lefty reclines to the left. And that's a little uncomfortable. So why should it be? It's not because we're like, I don't know, handed-ists, you know? Racist, sexist, where...
Before this generation, they always forced kids to...
Well, not in halacha. Yes, society did. Not halacha didn't. Right, okay.
Health reasons?
Good, yeah. What?
Swallowing.
Your heart.
What?
For swallowing.
Swallowing, correct. So the line in the Gemara is Shema Yakdim Kana Leveshet. Maybe the Kana, the windpipe, will go ahead of the Veshet, the food pipe. I forget which is the esophagus. I didn't pay attention to like biology. Okay? The food. Okay. So the trachea and the esophagus, basically, we don't want the food going down the part that you breathe out of because then you choke. And that's bad. So the halacha was concerned that if you lean to your left, to your right, if you lean to your right, then the wrong pipe will get the food and then you'll choke. So therefore, we don't do that. Now it happens to be science has taught us that the kana and veshet are not set up like this. They're actually set up like this. Right? Okay? They're not right and left, they're front and back. So really, should there be that medical issue and that concern? Probably not. However, the Gemara says that this is sakana. It's an instance of danger. The halacha is codified that way, that even lefties recline to their left. And even if that's a little bit uncomfortable, fine. But we don't want to risk it because it's dangerous. I checked this with numerous rabbanim in the city. Everybody says the same thing. Why mess with the halacha? Why mess with the statements of Chazal if you don't have to? So you want to pick a fight to say, oh, they got the science wrong, whatever. What's the point? Right? Just go to your left. And if it's a little bit uncomfortable because you're a lefty, I apologize, learn to use your right. That's, it's not politically correct, but the halacha says. Now, the Bir Halacha actually does raise an interesting question. He says, let's say you've got an amputee. Let's say you've got a guy or a girl. Let's say you've got an individual who does not have a right arm, a right hand. Right? You don't have a right hand. So if you recline to your left, how are you going to eat? The halacha assumes you can't really use your left when you're reclining to your left. Okay? So how are you going to eat? You don't have a right hand. So the halacha is that person probably does not have to recline. There would be no mitzvah of heseba for that individual because we are so concerned for the right leaning. We don't want to lean to the right to such an extent that somebody who can't use their right hand does not have to recline. Okay? So that's the mitzvah of reclining. When do we recline? When during the Seder do we recline? Just shout it out.
Drink the wine.
After the wine.
The wine, good. Wine, all 4 times on the wine. Right? Dinner. We're actually supposed to recline during the meal. There's not necessarily a mitzvah to recline during the meal. Like if if you have your brisket without reclining, you don't have to do it again. But you really should recline during the whole meal. However, matzah, you recline. The daled kosos, you recline. The afikomen, you recline. And korech, you recline. Korech is some debate, but korech we do recline. Maror, we do not recline. That's for obvious reasons, because the point of the reclining is to show that we are free, and Maror is to remind us that we were slaves. So it would be weird. What?
It's a contradiction.
It's contradiction, correct. That'd be a little weird. So we don't do that. Who is meant to recline?
Everyone.
Everyone. Men and women. Okay. So men definitely must recline. Okay? If a man does not recline when he drinks one of his 4 cups or eats the matzah, there is some debate. Some of the poskim say you should repeat. Some do not say. It depends which cup, which thing. Just recline. Don't make an issue. Okay? Women, however, the Shulchan Aruch says that women do not need to recline. Okay? Sephardic women, therefore, do not need to recline. Ashkenazi women, however, the Ramah, the Mechaber says, the Shulchan Aruch says, women don't recline unless they are chashuv. They are important. Okay? It seemed in his society, women typically were not. The Ramah, however, Ashkenaz halacha comes along and says, women, all of our women are chashuv, and therefore all of our women do have to recline. The Mishnah Berurah explains the saying, typically, the history is that women did not recline while they ate. Whereas men would sit on these plush things or couches while eating, women generally did not do that, and so the halacha became that way. Because it was only the style of a king to sit and eat like that, and therefore the Jews on Pesach do that. It was never the style for the women, the queens, the princesses to do that, and therefore it would never become the minhag for the Jewish women to do that on Pesach either. So he says women should, but they don't have to. Which means that if a woman does not recline while eating or drinking during the Seder, she would not have to repeat. And that's based on the opinion of the Rav Yah, who suggests that today, the Rav Yah was writing, probably 1400s, right? The Rav Yah says that today, nobody has to recline. There's no longer a mitzvah of reclining. So because there's no longer a mitzvah of reclining, the Ramah says, if somebody forgets, should you go back and drink again or eat again? No. Because according to the Rav Yah, there was never that mitzvah anyway. You get that? The Ramah says you should. L'chatchila, optimally in advance, the plan is to recline. Recline and drink. Let's say you forgot. Let's say you did not recline. Then we rely on the Rav Yah who says there's no mitzvah anyway, so don't do it again. Okay? Just, you don't have to repeat the cup, you don't have to repeat the matzah. Don't worry about it. Okay? That is the mitzvah of Heseba. When is the only time you are specifically not supposed to recline? Maror, Magid, and benching. Birkat HaMazon. Okay? During Magid, the halacha specifically is you should sit straight, be'ema uviyira, with awe and fear. Okay? You should sit up straight. It's an important time. It's Talmud Torah. We're learning, you're telling the story, we're reliving the story. Get into it. Don't sit back lazy, recline the way a king eats. Sit and be dignified.
So reclining you should, but you don't have to.
During the Magid, during the telling of the story, you should not. No, during the matzah you must. During the matzah you must. During the wine you must. If you didn't, you don't have to drink the cup again. You don't have to eat the matzah again. But you must do it. Okay? Maror, you don't do it. So men must, for the 4 cups, the matzah, the afikomen, and the porech. Women should, but don't necessarily have to. If anybody forgets to recline when they were supposed to have reclined, they don't need to repeat the act that was done without the reclining. Magid, benching, and maror, you should not recline. Okay? 4 cups. We know we're supposed to have 4 cups of wine. The first is Kiddush. The second is at the end of Magid. The third is for benching, and the fourth after Hallel. Okay? So the first is Kiddush, and that makes sense because that's where we start. Alright? And the 4 cups need to be drank al haseder, with the order, in their specific designated place. If somebody at Kiddush pours himself 4 glasses of wine and drinks them back to back, did he fulfill his obligation of 4 cups? No. The 4 cups have to be drank in order. He would have fulfilled the first cup, because he did that when he was supposed to, but then the other ones he still has to do in their appropriate place.
Do you have to drink it in one go, or can you drink a little and then drink a little?
Good question. Okay. The cups can be drank piecemeal, but only over a certain amount of time. Okay, you can't like spread it out for an hour. Okay. However, we're going to get into
I was going to say, what is the minimum amount?
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
Hold it 1 second, okay? In general, the rules of a kos, of a cup, a glass, whatever term we want, kos, glass, cup, they're all the same thing. Okay? Just if I switch it, don't worry about it. Glass, kos, and cup are all the same. So, for Kiddush, generally, anytime you need a kos of something, you need what's called a revius. The minimum measurement in halacha of liquids, of significant measure of liquids, is a revius. It means, literally, it means a quarter. I believe it's a quarter of a hin. I don't really know what a hin is because it was a biblical measure and we don't use that in Canada anymore. Okay? However, you need what's called a revius. How much is a revius? Right? It's a good question. So, there are 3 prominent opinions that are important to know. One is the opinion of Rav Chaim Na'eh. He is of the opinion that a revius is 86 milliliters. 86, right? I'm getting that right, milliliters here in Canada. Right? I'm used to ounces. Okay? For anybody watching this,
So people are used to ounces too.
What? Here also
we grew up with ounces as well.
Okay, good. So in ounces, that's 2.908. 2.908, which means just get a 3-ounce glass.
Yeah.
Or if you're using Canadian measure, so 86 milliliters. Now let me teach you a cool trick to remember that. Everyone is familiar with the concept of gematria, right? That all Hebrew letters have a numerical value associated with them. The word kos, cup, is chaf vav samach. If anybody is a mathematician, that's 86. 26 and 60 is 86. What is the smallest measure of a revius? Kos. 86. Rav Chaim Na'eh. Okay? On the other hand, you have the Chazon Ish. That is a stringent opinion. The Chazon Ish says there's a debate as to what he actually said. Whether he said 5.07 or 5.3 ounces, which translates to 150 or 157 milliliters. Okay? The trick for that one, kos hagun. The word hagun gives you another 64. 64 and 86 is 150. Or kos malay, since malay is 71, 71 and 86 is 157. So the Chazon Ish is either kos hagun, meaning a proper kos, or kos malay, a full kos. Okay, those are just cute little tricks. But Rav Chaim Na'eh is the lenient opinion. The Chazon Ish is the strict opinion. Rav Moshe Feinstein, great halachic decisive of the last generation, arguably the greatest halachic decisive of the last generation, he actually had a middle opinion. 3.3 ounces is a revius. 3.3, which is 97.6 milliliters. That is the opinion we generally follow. That is the opinion we generally follow. The generally accepted opinion that we adopt as to what the minimum measure of a revius is, the minimum optimal measure of a revius, is 97.6 milliliters, 3.3 ounces, and it is not hard to find 100 milliliter glasses. They're not hard to find in any store, and it's really just very easy to fulfill the shita because of that. Now, Kiddush in general, when you make Kiddush in general, you need your kos that holds a revius. How much do you need to drink? You need to drink 1 cheekful, which is approximately rov revius. It's half of a revius. Okay? On Pesach, that is not the case. On Pesach, you need to drink either the whole cup or at least half the cup. So just the sip that we take on Friday nights is not enough on Pesach for the 4 cups of wine. The 4 cups of wine, you need to have more. You need to drink optimally the full thing. So on a regular Friday night, if you want to be stringent and hold the Chazon Ish 157 milliliters, find a big cup and drink however much of it you want. Just take your sip and you're fine. On the Seder night, if you take a 157 milliliter glass, you're going to have to drink at least half, but preferably the whole thing. You're going to be drunk by the second glass. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Go with Rav Moshe, 3.3 or 97, right? Depends which version we like, 3.3 or 97 milliliters. Go with that. Drink the whole thing, no problem. If, however, a person finds that difficult, you can rely on Rav Chaim Na'eh, who had said 2.9 ounces or 86 milliliters. Okay? So, optimally we should use Rav Moshe Feinstein, but if a person, for whatever reason, can't drink that much, they get sick, they get headaches, they're elderly, whatever it is, they're allergic, whatever, I don't know. But if there's a reason that a person can't, you can rely on the more makel sheet, on the lenient opinion, but we should try for Moshe Feinstein. Okay? That is the minimum amount, and that is how much of it you need to drink. Wine. What kind of wine, what kind of liquid should you use to fill the glass? Wine, obviously. We know 4 glasses of wine. Okay. Non-mevushal is probably preferable. Okay? There's an idea of mevushal, boiled wine. The boiled wines, the non-mevushal wines, tend to not be as good. Also, they tend to be better, the non-mevushal. The mevushal wines, most of what we drink, basically anything that Kedem, Bartanura, Herzog, all the classics, basically everything they put out is mevushal already. I don't really know who the companies are that put out the non-mevushal, but they probably have certain ones in even those lines that are non-mevushal. The reason you want to use a non-mevushal wine, a non-cooked wine for Pesach, is because preferably you should use something that could have been used on the Mizbeach, that could have been used in the service in the Beis HaMikdash. Since mevushal wine, boiled, cooked wine, could not have been used on the Beis HaMikdash, therefore we try to use non-mevushal wine. We also try to use red wine. Why do we try red? For 2 reasons. 1, the reds are better in halacha, just whatever. Okay? 2, because we are trying to remember the blood. We're trying to remember the blood of Egypt. So we use red as a remembrance of the blood. If, however, a person much prefers the whites, go with white, it's okay. If a person prefers the mevushal wines, that's also okay. Right? How can you use grape juice? Let's say you can't drink that much wine. Now it happens to be you can find wines that are really, really low in alcohol. You can find like 3%. Okay, it's not that wine has that much alcohol to begin with, but you can find really low wines. So, should a person use wine if they have a problem with that? They get headaches, they get sick, whatever. Can you use grape juice? So, this is actually a big debate, and this debate really got started in the States during Prohibition. 1920s, 1930s, during the Prohibition, when the American government outlawed alcohol, except for sacramental religious purposes. Yes, so the Prohibition did allow for sacramental religious purposes, but you could not use wine. So what did the Jews do? So, for the most part, you got a rabbi exemption. Right? Because you had to use it. It was a religious purpose for Kiddush, Friday night, Shabbos, Pesach, whatever. Okay? However, there was one rabbi, a guy named Rabbi Louis Ginsburg, who was a conservative rabbi. He wrote a responsa, he wrote a tshuva, we would call it, that basically said that grape juice is okay. And therefore, the Orthodox Jews that are using wine for Shabbos shouldn't be using that because grape juice is just as good. This sparked a major debate. Rav Moshe Feinstein, who we mentioned earlier, agreed. Rav Moshe Feinstein said that grape juice is good enough for Kiddush. However, it's good enough for Kiddush on the average Friday night. Friday night, Shabbos day, Havdalah, whatever. Pesach is different. Because Pesach, there's not just the mitzvah of Kiddush, there's the mitzvah of the 4 cups. And why do we have the 4 cups? Because of chirus, because of freedom. Chirus means freedom. Okay, it's a show of freedom. We drink the 4 glasses, we rejoice in that way, and we show that we are free men. So we drink the glasses for that reason. Grape juice, however, according to Rav Moshe, does not show freedom, because chirus presumably should be an intoxicating drink. When is the last time you saw somebody make a toast with a glass of grape juice? Never. You toast on wine. So if you think, because it's chashuv, because wine is more important, it's generally regarded as a better drink than grape juice. So how could you use grape juice at the Seder? Asked Rav Moshe. That was the question. And he said, so even though it works on a Friday night, it wouldn't work for the Seder. The Rav Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, he disagreed. He said that grape juice could be used. And the reason he suggested was because chirus is not specifically about what's better, it's about what you prefer. As a king, as a free person, you have the ability to make the choice to drink what you want to drink. And therefore, if I like grape juice better, because I don't like the taste of wine, I do like the taste of wine, I don't want anybody, right, I'm recording, okay? If I didn't like the taste of wine, or if wine gave me headaches or I got sick or whatever, I would be allowed to use grape juice. The Rav personally tried not to use grape juice because it was a kula, it was a lenient opinion, and he felt why get involved in the whole debate. However, when he got older and sick and he really couldn't handle the wine anymore, he did use grape juice. So bottom line, can you use grape juice? Yes. Should you use wine? As long as you enjoy it better. Right? So for the average individual that likes the wine better, go with the wine. If you can't find the wine you can tolerate, go with grape juice. It's okay. Right? That's the idea of the 4 cups. One more thing on the four cups. Children, a child who's of the age to understand why there are 4 cups, understand Pesach and all that, should be given his own glass. His or her. The 4 cups apply to the women as well. And the reason for that is because of a term that the rabbis coined called Af Hein Hayu Ba'oso Hanes. They were also part of the same miracle. They were saved from Egypt and slavery and death and torture the same way that the men were, and therefore they are chayiv in the mitzvahs the same way the men are. So the women also need the 4 glasses. So that the same would go for boys and for girls. Men, women, boys, girls, it's all the same. Okay? Yeah.
My question was children.
There you go.
Give them grape juice, depending on
the age, and again, depending on what they can handle.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to give it to a 6-year-old and he's going to take a sip of wine and go crazy the rest of the night, probably a bad idea. On the other hand, if you give him grape juice, he'll probably be on a sugar high, so I'm not sure that's a better idea. But you have to gauge the child. Now, as far as hierarchy, we generally assume the hierarchy of how you should drink is straight wine, wine diluted with grape juice, wine diluted with water, grape juice diluted with water. So that's the general progression. If you can handle it, go with wine. If you can't, go with something else. It's okay. All right?
I've got teenagers who are obviously, beyond bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, but they don't like wine.
Give them grape juice.
So grape juice is not a problem.
Absolutely.
Still
correct. Absolutely. Still Yotzei Mitzvah. If you could, if they want to try it again this year, great. But if they don't, go with grape juice. If they want the sparkling grape juice, because that's like a little fancier, get that. It's whatever. If they want to try diluted wine, that's also okay. If they want to go first glass wine, the other glass is grape juice, whatever. But we hold like the Rav on this one. Right? We hold like the Rav, and I've again checked this with the Rabbanim in the city. I didn't get a chance. I did not get a chance to ask Rabbi Michalowitz. So if anybody wants the answer from here, I would suggest speaking to Rabbi Michalowitz. Any of the things that I bring up that there are really 2 sides to, I would strongly encourage you to speak to. Here, I would say Rabbi Michalowitz. Anybody that's listening online, speak to your Rav about. But I have checked a lot of these things with the Rabbanim in the city, and the consensus seems to be that go with what you prefer, and in terms of the wine and the grape juice issue. Okay? All right. Let's move on.